My guest is a comedian and podcaster from Seattle. She's one half of the Budcast podcast and the creator of the YouTube channel Barefoot and Pregnant. I'm excited to welcome Alexa Stanton.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
How much of that did I get right?
That was pretty good.
Okay.
What'd you say about the Budcast? It's
one half. Are you still doing it with your friend?
Used to be with my bud, as I call her.
Yeah.
But then because I moved back to Michigan, and she, bless her heart, has a really shitty laptop and really shitty phone. So I'm like, this isn't gonna work.
You went back during the pandemic, right?
Right. Went back for about 6 months, and decided to come back here.
Yeah.
Basically.
What part of Michigan are you?
Well, it's a village. It's called the Village of Lake Odessa.
Oh, wait. Where is that in?
It's in between Lansing and Grand Rapids.
Okay. I think my old boss just moved back there.
To Lake Odessa?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so.
Tell him I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is it? I grew up in Minnesota and I went to college in Indiana. So
okay.
I got a lot of friends from Michigan. Like what part or what is it?
So dead smack in the middle between Lansing and Grand Rapids, by Ionia, Portland, Michigan.
Okay.
And I do love the village. There are a lot of great things about it. It wasn't awful being there. There just are not that many people, you know?
Okay.
I feel bad bashing on it.
How small are we talking?
I think 2,000, 2,500.
Okay.
I could be way off.
Like what was your graduating class?
Yeah. Graduating class was 200 something.
Ugh.
Yeah. So
it's like everybody hooked up with everybody by the end.
Pretty much. Yeah.
School.
We're all just sucking everybody's dick, basically. No. It for my high school, it was a 30 square mile radius. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
So the total amount of kids in our school were maybe 400 to 500. Like I had a bigger class.
Were the kids that like were further away from the village? They were like the out of county.
Oh yeah,
kids,
they were the odd ones.
Yeah, that just like
yep.
They didn't really show up that much.
Yep. And then we had our homeschoolers that decided to come in high school. So they had a rough adjustment.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
What was did you live on a decent amount of land or?
I kind of bounced all over. My parents were very young when they had me. So it was very much like new spot all the time. Once I got into, I would say once I was 13 or 14, then we finally bought our first place. I act like I chipped in on that. I'm like, well, we made a decision. And so they had gotten their first place. It was only on an acre, but we had chickens and pigs, and I call it a farm. My dad corrects me all the time, and he's like, this isn't a fucking farm. Yeah. Like, what? Stop calling it that. And I'm like, well, to anybody else, it sounds like a farm.
Is it? So that's still where they're at, though?
They just sold their house, actually, and bought some land to build their first house.
Okay.
So right now they're renting, still have chickens, but the landlord doesn't really know about it.
What was, like, did you like having all those animals, or was it a pain in the ass?
I enjoyed, I thought it was so fun to go get eggs. I felt so wholesome, you know? But then there'd come times when I'm trying to go to the Friday night football game, and my dad's like, go do the pig. So I have my new Abercrombie.
Wait, what does that mean?
It sounds like, I see how it sounds now, thinking about how I said that.
I know it's a chore, but
right.
what
feed and water the pig.
Okay.
So I got to make sure that
I love that he abbreviates. Go do the pig.
That's right. That's a farm talk.
Yeah.
So I went and fucked the pig, and then no, I go out there and I'm ready for the game. Okay, I got my full on 2000s makeup. I got my little Abercrombie shorts that cost $150 for some reason.
Are you?
This is when I was maybe 14.
Okay, but when were you born?
94.
Okay, so you're 5 years.
So this is 2008,
so
2009.
Abercrombie was still popping then?
This is like when it started. This is the only thing I had from there because stuff was so expensive that I had to buy that on my own.
What'd you get, though?
They were little white shorts that were had thin green lines on them.
Okay.
They weren't 150. They were probably 70, but regardless, way too expensive.
That's so crazy. But it had the
for
logo.
For a piece of cloth to cover my ass, you know?
But it really wasn't either.
No. And so I wear them for my first time. My dad's like, go fuck the pig. So I go out there, and it's so muddy from the night before because it rained that I was feeding the pig and I went to take a step back and my boots were stuck. If you've ever had like muck boots stuck in, mud or anything like that, there's no pulling them out really. And
so the boot itself is stuck in the mud.
Both of them.
Okay.
Planted. And I'm trying to go backwards. And then I just
While
realized.
You're wearing the Abercrombie shorts?
Full outfit. And I just fell right into all of it. It was mainly pig shit.
Were they ever wearable again?
No. And I remember I was just screaming because I couldn't get up either. Like,
what
I'm
hurt
stuck.
more, like the loss of the shorts or just being like in pig shit?
Right. The whole thing. It was the loss of the shorts. It was that I'm going to be late to the game now and I can't wear the shorts. It was a whole, I'm going to smell like shit. And,
That's so funny.
Right. It was, that was the last time I dressed nice to go do the pig.
Uh-huh. And so that was when you were like 14?
Yep, about 14.
Okay. Did you go to school out there or like go to college or?
Yep, I went to Michigan State for a year and a half.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, hated it.
Really?
So I bounced. I was living.
What were you studying?
At first I was going to be a fashion major.
Okay.
And then
what drove that?
I didn't.
Abercrombie.
Right, exactly. I didn't want to do anything. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, And I had this blog my senior year of high school.
By the way, I didn't mean to leave this TV on, if that's distracting.
Oh, no, it's not.
Okay.
I had this blog. I called it Fashionably Unique. And I wore a different outfit to school every single day of the year.
Okay.
So not including Abercrombie shorts, obviously. And so I would post about it and write where I got it from and write just random stuff like that. Didn't think anybody saw it. And then one day, the counselor at my school called me to her office and was like, "Hey, we saw your blog." Like, the analytics, it finally let me see it. It was like, it got around to like 20 to 30,000 people.
Wow.
I know. I had no idea. No idea how to set up ads. I didn't make anything from it, And she was like, "You should go into fashion, I was like, "Well, fuck, that sounds better than nursing," because that's what I was going to do.
Side note on this. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a little like these counselors that are giving advice on what you should do with your career? They're high school counselors.
Right.
Like, it's like the last person you should be taking advice on career stuff.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
I don't know why that's never talked about.
No. How do they still... I've never been talked to by the counselor about anything that I should probably be counseled about,
Sure. It's like, what you should have talked to me about is like how to do taxes and like, I don't know, like what the actual pay is going to be for these careers that you pursue, that you make a decision when you're 18 years old.
Right.
And all that shit. And instead, like, they're just like, it's a good, I mean, if you have good, what's extracurriculars, like that was what they were always pushing. Like, you got to have a lot of diversity.
Right.
I mean, none of these schools,
you got to run yourself
shit.
Ragged to get accepted.
It's
right?
so stupid.
No, it's ridiculous. I used to be a tour guide for a while for a school, and I'd shoot all the parents straight. I'm like, "Hey, it's pretty messed up that like your kid right now, who's a senior in high school, has a curfew and, is expected home for dinner. You have rules.
Yeah.
And then boom, a flip is switched. And they're not only sent to figure out how to live on their own, but know what they want to do for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
I just had to be home by 11.
You were like 19 telling all these parents.
Right.
That.
And they were all like, "Oh, fuck, she's right." I'm like, "Take a year off. We don't need you yet." You know, like,
No, it's true. I got busted before the first week of even classes started when I was at Purdue. Like, we got to school, and when I came into college, like, I was partying so fucking hard, already. And we had we found the right dorm, like apartment on campus living thing. We started having a party. We never hung out with that same group of people again, ever.
Right.
Like, we all got in trouble. It was like they took fucking 2 bottles of Patron, poured it down the drain. We were all just like, fuck. And we were trying to pour it into the cups in the sink to like save, like the dirty dishes. Right. We're like, yeah, we're going to get a little bit of it. And then like we all got, I think you got like a check mark or whatever the fuck it is. Like, you get a couple strikes.
Right.
And if you get 3 strikes for drinking on campus, you're out.
Okay.
And or drinking like at the dorms and shit. We got strikes before the fucking thing even started.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was out of control because they did orientation and we all just got wasted.
Right.
But some of those kids, like, they fucking got to college and they had never done. They were so sheltered.
Right.
I was like banging fucking pain pills like up my nose and shit, you know, like it was, there were like
right.
two types of kids. It was like never drank before. And then the kids that they've been like in the like running the start program for AA. Like,
right. Well, I feel like you find that in a lot of, there's this idea, especially with bigger schools like Michigan State that I went to, where it's like, you got to go and like, you ready to get fucked up, you know, blackout all the time.
That's the Midwest.
Right. And
it's like you drink for entertainment.
That's all there really is, you know, to do.
in the wintertime.
Oh, yeah.
Ice fishing. I mean, everything you do in the Midwest, you're fucked up while you're.
Right.
Like,
right.
Is that.
You got a beer
I don't
while
drink
you ice
anymore,
fish.
but like, is that how it is out here too?
Yes and no. See, I find that people, it's a toss up. So back home, it's like people they still drink and drive and stuff like that, but not as much because the cops are more on them about that. Mm-hmm. But like here, everyone's getting so fucked up and they're like, oh, cops don't really arrest you for DUIs. And like, everyone's drunk driving.
Here?
And so like, there's both recklessness, but in different, like more people are blacking out in Michigan, but more people are endangering others here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like Dirt Road Anthem
right.
in Michigan.
Right.
And then here, it's like you're actually going to hurt somebody besides yourself.
Right, exactly. And working at a bar myself, I just see people act so wild all the time, like just children, you know? And it wasn't like that as much as I saw in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, if it's because it's a city and so
you got that out
more
by the time you were
drugs
like in high school, you know, like when you start drinking at 13, 12, like you fucking know how to drink by the time.
Right. So the kids.
When was how old were you when you started drinking?
I didn't start drinking till college.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were the example you were telling those parents.
Pretty much. And the thing is, I feel like the kids that were more, not that I was sheltered. I had a few drinks in high school, but I hadn't gotten like drunk. The kids that are more sheltered like that, they get to college and think that like they're just invincible, you know? Because I felt that the first time I drank, you know, the McCormick's vodka and it's going right down the gullet.
Oh, yeah.
Not barely gagging. And now if I sniff it, I'm like, oh my God. Like I can't.
When I was 14, I chugged a glass of bourbon like this tall. Oh. And then the guy was like, he couldn't believe, because I hadn't had that happen with alcohol yet where I had gotten sick.
Right.
And I had just been like, I was an athlete, so I was used to like chugging Gatorade, all this shit. I'm like, I can literally drink anything, which sounds really bad now.
Right.
As like it.
Try me.
If I had gone to the wrong group of people and been like, I can drink anything. Like it's really bad, but I drank a glass of bourbon this tall, and then he filled it up, and I did it again. It was like Jim Beam, and I think that's bourbon.
Yep.
But within 15 minutes later, it was like, you remember those DVD collections, like where you'd have like all the DVDs, would just like by the TV, you'd have that thing. I was like going down, and it just went in slow motion, and I was like, what is happening? And then it was the first 24-hour hangover I ever had.
Oh, and you were 14?
Yeah. And I remember when I went to college, I met this kid who really hadn't drank very much. He was from Carmel, Indiana, which is like, it's I wouldn't say it's Bellevue, but it's like that. It's what would be equivalent to it out here? Just like a wealthier white suburban area in Indiana.
Okay. Magnolia?
Might be.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's basically just, white rich people.
That's probably about it.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's just like a lot of keeping up with the Joneses. Mm-hmm. But he went to school and he had never really drank before. And he started rushing fraternities. Oh. And I remember we got in an argument. Like, I was like, dude, you can be hungover for 24 hours. I promise you. And he's like, no, that's not possible. Like, I would never And it's the same thing that you were talking about where it's like just down the hatch, like whatever. And then he came in one night where it was like someone's walking and you're like, they're not even a human being. Like it's just a shell of themselves. And the next day he came in, it just like, you can smell the vodka on him. And he looks at me and he's like, you're right. Like that's the worst hangover too. Like where you just wake up, you get sick, you go back to sleep, you get sick again.
I haven't felt like that in a long time.
Yeah.
Thankfully. I've only blacked out once, and it was in Michigan State in the first 2 weeks that I started going there, because that's what I thought you do, you know? And it took one time for me to be like, never again.
Really?
That it freaked me out, not knowing what happened.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like that.
I know, I mean, you know Valina Taskov?
It sounds familiar.
She's from Kelowna, BC.
Okay.
I was in New York hanging out with her, and she's like, I like blacking out. Like she was trying to make her and her friend were together, and she was like, I enjoy a good blackout. Like the way she said it was so fucking funny. And both me and her friend are like, why? I think that's the first person I know. 'Cause she's like, I know that I'm going to get home safe, and when I'm that way, nobody's going to try and do anything with me because I'm a disgusting person.
See, but when you're in college,
it's out of control.
Right. And so many people, I mean, that was the end goal every weekend for everybody, you know, was to get blacked out like that.
I thought you meant like to do something bad.
No.
Did you ever have any like questionable?
No, luckily by the time that day, it was St. Patrick's Day. I woke up at 6 a.m, did Mike's 40 hands. Like, I'm ready to go, right? And
you want to explain what that is?
It's when you take, with most people, it's like 40 ounces of beer, you know?
Yeah.
But I was...
No. Explain what, because I know Edward 40 hands, right, but like what you actually do.
I tape 2 40-ounce Mike's Hard Lemonades to my hands, and you can't take them off until you finish them.
It's just out of control because you always have to piss.
Ridiculous.
Before you
That's what you got buddies for. Yeah.
Somebody's going to like unzip you.
Right. Or in your case, hold your dick, you know, for you.
It's whatever.
Not gay.
It's not.
It's a game.
Even if it is, it's okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's like, you know, I've had a lot of straight friends that are like, it's not gay, you know. Yeah, I was thrown up by 10 a.m, and I said, tweet about this to my friend, and then nothing. And I woke up around 1 p.m.
That's a 3-hour blackout. That's not bad.
Yeah, right? Woke up at 3 p.m. or 1 p.m, throwing up on the carpet of a dark room. And I was like, where the fuck am I? Blackout again. Pass out. Then I come back to. And
do you know what that's called?
What?
Time traveling. The same dude that like said he couldn't have the 24-hour hangover. That's what he nicknamed it.
I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It really is, because you come back and you're like, whoa. Oh, yeah. I came back to again, and I was around the toilet throwing up, and I hear this laughter coming from the door, and it's 4 of these basic white bimbos that are just fucking videotaping me, right? And I'm just in a green and white tutu. So St. Patrick's Day, celebrate. And, you know, just puking, and I started doing a bit, because that's me even then, and I started just
Where were you, though?
I ended up
in the
at
dorm, or?
An apartment complex. And I didn't think I knew anybody, but then I saw someone I knew, and my cousin lived there. But it's not like they were a cousin that like I was close to. It was like a cousin that wouldn't acknowledge me growing up because I wasn't like cool enough, you know? So it's not like we had that like, I was like, bro, thank God. I was like, fuck, anybody but you, man. You know? Dropped my phone in the toilet, trying to call my roommate. And I finally asked one of those people for their phone. I called my parents, and they picked me up
from
Michigan State campus, and 45 minutes away.
Oh, that's not bad.
Mom got there by 1:30, 2 o'clock. Drove me home.
Was she like cool, or was she?
She was cool. She was laughing her ass off because I had the window rolled down, and I'm just screaming at people on the street, like just doing the craziest shit. And she's like, "Oh my God, hands and feet inside the car," and I'm like hanging outside of it. And I get home, and that's when my dad looked at me when I walked in the door, and he said, I am so disappointed in you.
Really?
And I looked at him and I said, fuck you. And he was like, excuse me? And I was like, you specifically stated if I'm ever in a situation where I'm scared, too drunk, if I need anything, I can always call you guys. And that's what I did. So don't tell me that.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck, she's so right.
Did you have a code word?
What do you mean?
Like for when that was the case?
No, that's never happened.
Really?
I've never had to call them for something like that.
Huh.
So
My
it's
dad
like
gave me a code word.
What do you mean?
He was like, if you're ever in a situation you need me to be there, like call me, say this word, and we'll be there.
What did your dad think you were going to be getting into?
Just the same situation.
Right,
like
okay.
if you were
okay.
Yeah.
So what was your code word? Can you tell me? Is that too secretive?
Snuffleupagus.
Nuh-uh.
100%. Which I don't think I could have even said if I was wasted.
No, snuffleupagus.
It's like the hardest word
Right.
to say possible. It's like you got cotton in your mouth.
What if he did that on purpose because he's like, he'll never call me when he's drunk? Like he won't be able to say it.
Yeah, he won't be able to say it. I did have one fucking situation where it was like that level of fucking hammered. And my brother, I haven't talked about this on here, but like he was playing hockey, Minnesota, like middle of winter. And he, like his stick got caught in the boards and it went underneath his pads and he got hit from behind. So it like penetrated under his rib cage and they didn't know if it had ruptured his pancreas. Right. So like he went to the hospital. They didn't know if he was going to live.
Right.
Like it was that.
You only got one of those, right?
Yeah. I don't know science, but I think that's right.
I think we only got one pancreas and like two something else.
It was serious at least. And I had been the whole night playing what's that game when you're on ice and you with boots and you have like broom ball.
Okay. It was like hockey, but with boots.
You literally take like, it's kind of like a little stick and there's a ball and you just get hammered and run around on ice. Like it's hilarious
That's
to
fun.
do hammered, but it's just, bad. Like it's you get hurt,
Right. Obviously.
But I was so wasted and my dad called me and he's like, your brother's in the hospital. Like, we don't know if we're going to need you, but like have your phone ready, be ready to drive to the hospital. I'm like sitting there like snuffling. That's all I wanted to say. But it would have been the same thing with your dad where like it just so disappointing.
Right. But, what did he want me to do?
You did the right thing.
Right. No, later on we talked when I was more sober. I took a 5-hour nap, woke up for dinner, and then he's like,
Really?
let's chat. Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry for saying that, Dad. He's like, I'm not disappointed in you. I was like, I know. I know.
I can't imagine having girls. It must suck so much. Like,
yeah. Well, and I just think about me as a young girl too, and some of the shit I was doing that I never ever want my dad to know about, and like ever. And I think about, if I were to have a child and it were to be a girl, I'd be like, oh no, you're not leaving the house.
Yeah.
No, that's so funny.
Never gonna.
You're not going to college. That's crazy. That's crazy. You'd even say that.
Because there's just so many, like, I don't know, everybody's intentions are so questionable.
Right. You can raise, your child however you want to, but you can't.
It's everybody
All
else
the other
you gotta
people,
be worried about.
right.
It's like driving. Like, it's not a matter of like how safe you drive. It's
No,
just being in
you
that.
got to look at everyone else because
For
they're the
sure.
ones that are probably going to fuck up.
It's crazy. You and your dad, like, I wanted to talk about this because you have this, I forgot to say this already, but just a reminder, everybody watching, if you are watching, hit the like, subscribe, and notifications bell so that you get our content on YouTube. I fucked that up, but just do those 3 things, okay? Like, subscribe, and notifications bell. It'll push our stuff to you and help us with the YouTube algorithm. But you have this channel, your YouTube channel is Alexa Stanton, right?
Yep.
But you did this project, Barefoot and Pregnant.
Yes.
Which is very entertaining. I recommend anybody watching to go check it out. But what was the idea behind it? You did it, a lot of it's with your dad, right?
Yes. So originally when COVID hit, I knew stand-up wasn't really an option anymore. I went to school for photo and video. That's what I ended up graduating with.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I do a lot of my own, all the videos on YouTube. I edit all of it. The music's mine, the design, everything.
That was a question I had for you, because it's like the level of production you have there is incredible.
Thank you.
It's for, as somebody that does this too,
Right.
People don't realize like how much time and energy goes into it.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of you as somebody with that background, just with like your sense of humor and like you're kind of like a life of the party type person in the room. And it's such a different skill set.
Right.
But yeah, so you went to school for all that?
Yep. Majored in photo, did some video stuff as well. Granted, I'm not saying by any means like, oh, my work is so great and like the transitions are brilliant and like there's a lot, I watch it and I critique the hell out of it, but it's better than, most.
It's DIY
right,
too.
Exactly. But yeah, and so I had this idea. I came out with this short sketch that was like a Dateline type video, like 2020-esque. And I realized that like, I'm familiar with watching these shows as a child and like the transitions and the movement and like how it's edited and like I could do that. So what if I do spin-offs of shows that like
parody?
Right. So I thought of one of my dad's favorite shows, Teen Mom, 16 and Pregnant. If you know my dad, this comes as a shock because it's like, what? He loves it. He loves it.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I called him. I was like, hey, what if we do like a 4-minute video, sketch video of like Teen Mom, but we do it more like Hick on, on our land, our 1 acre with the chickens, and you can be my dad and we can, do all these things. And he was like, I'm a pretty private person, actually. I don't think I want to, do that. I'll be your camera guy. I was like, all right, I'll write you out. It's dad ran out on me, easy. And he goes, yeah, or I could wear, the camo overalls I have and I could shave my beard into mutton chops and my name could be Rodney. And I was like, yeah, or that. Yeah. We could, that works too, So it was going to be a 4-minute video and I go home for a month when COVID kind of first hit, just because, to be with family. And I put the camera on him and I was blown away. I was so blown away. He was blown away. It was one of those things like we each recorded a separate interview and then we're like, holy fuck, like why is this so easy for us to tap into these characters?
Yeah.
Like too easy,
It jumps off the screen too. Like when I was watching it, number one, your all this stuff that you're talking about where it's like Teen Mom, it's a very well done parody.
Thank you.
But like, I know you, so I'm a little biased, but he himself, like I was sitting there like, is this something they've been doing together?
No.
Like he just has a very natural ability on camera, which is, as someone who's on camera weekly and is not, like it's just like, it's crazy to see someone like that.
Right. Yeah. I was blown, just not even like his comfortability in front of the camera, but this character he came up with.
It's crazy.
And
is it all improv?
For the most part, yeah, we'd have a basic, like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go out and feed the chickens. That's it, right? And so then, give my mom the camera or whatever, and then we just go out and just start bing, 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 back and forth. And it's so hard to not laugh sometimes. Both of us are like, like, you asshole. Like, and it was just so much fun that, this 4-minute video turned into a 7-episode series on YouTube.
Is he like, do you get your sense of humor from your dad or your mom?
Both. They're both very funny in very different ways.
Okay.
My dad's more introverted, hilarious. Will catch you with his like humor,
Subtle.
Right. Whereas my mom is so extroverted, life of the party. And so I feel like I get, both of their sense of humor, but it's nice because my mom's extrovertedness, which I feel like is great, as being a performer, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I'm a really nice blend of both of them. Yeah.
You are. It's also like out here on the West Coast, like you have a different comedic sensibility than a lot of people out here. Like I feel like there are like 4 or 5 things that do really well on the West Coast, like whimsical stuff, virtue signaling, like all this. Whereas Midwest humor, I don't know how I would describe it, but when I see it, I kind of know it. And it's a little, I guess, more crass and fucking, I don't know. When I was in New York recently, and it just is so refreshing to be around like more raw comedy.
Oh, isn't it great?
I miss it.
I know. Oh, it is. I love bouncing back and forth between here and Michigan because the scenes are so different, and the mics are so different, and the crowd is so different. And it's
which do you like more?
It's so hard to say. So I get, obviously, because Seattle's a bigger city, I'm getting more opportunities out here for paid stuff and booking bigger shows and performing in front of people I wouldn't normally. But in Michigan, the open mics there, you get 7 or 8 minutes every time. And I'm a storyteller. So that is so good for me to practice and spread my legs. Not spread my legs. What's that saying?
How did I not catch that either?
Oh my God. I fuck up idioms more than anybody I know. And sometimes I catch them, but I say them with enough confidence.
Oh my God. If that
you
was
never
like,
catch it.
If that was just on there. Oh,
that was a perfect example. Because if I say things with a lot of confidence, I'm like, no, I'm right. And you're like, yep, spread your legs.
I nodded through all of that.
But I couldn't say that on camera and be like, I can't not address that. So it's nice to stretch my legs.
Yeah.
Whereas here, the mics are 3 or 4 minutes. And granted, it makes you work harder in getting those punchlines. But when I'm working on a new story that's already a 6-minute story, and I got to cut it halfway through, or I can't ever work on it because
it's too long.
Right. So it's nice. I realized going back this last couple months, I got a new 10 minutes just out of that I'm working with right now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have gotten that if I was here.
This is a weird, I was talking to somebody about this recently, and it's funny because this episode's going to come out and I have the next episode in line with Wilfred Padua, who was here in Seattle a while back. And it's at the end of my trip in New York. And I'm just like, I don't understand why anybody would be here. Like, you can't develop material. Like, I'm just shitting on it. And then he said some stuff to me after the podcast, and I like saw it in practice that night. And I was like, this is the place. You have to be here to do stand-up.
Right.
And it's just kind of funny because, like, as I was on that trip, my happiness with New York was like just kept going down. And then right after that podcast, I was like
skyrocketed.
Yeah. But
so what did he say, if you don't mind me asking?
I think out here, most of the time you write your stuff and you go up and you check it with the room,
right.
And in New York, you don't have the luxury of like being in front of really good audiences, large numbers of people to like kind of validate what you think is funny. So you have to kind of trust your instincts on that. And then also when you're in those rooms, like you pick what you're going to be working on based off of the situation. So there are going to be good shows and bad shows,
right.
Like okay shows or whatever, but whatever's in front of you, it's like what you do what's the most you can do with what's in front of you.
Okay.
And out here, it's like there's a lot of like short sets or shows, and those shows are in front of paid audiences, and you kind of like, it conditions you to always want to like look good, you know, like I'm on a paid show, I want to be the best one on the show or whatever, but with all these like kind of intermediate, like you're doing 7 to 10 minute sets, like you start strong, you work on stuff in the middle, and then you close strong, like, and you're doing it for comics. You're just, you're growing so much, and it's a conducive environment to like, as long as you're not a really disrespectful person, like most of the time, if you screw up on a show and you're trying something new, a comic that's producing that's going to be like, oh, you took a chance there. Right. Like, I get it. But when everything's like paid out here and it's a booker and like, there's less leeway. And I think it's just a reflection. Once the scene gets big enough, and in order to like create stage time, comics are the ones that are producing, then you get that like cool middle area. Because it's just, it's basic economics, right? Like the clubs operate to make money,
right?
And they need talent, and it's this weird like exchange. But when it's like comics and comics working together, like it's more stage time and development, and like sometimes there's money, sometimes there's not, but it's a different, there's not that like
There's
added
a different
layer.
fire under your ass. It's not just to make money and, you know, impress the person running the show or try to get more booked stuff. It's like, no, you're actually like looking more inward and working on your jokes rather than worrying about all the other stuff.
And you want to impress the other comics, you know,
Right,
like you want to
right.
make them laugh. And, like,
Right.
if you can make the comics laugh, that's almost a better feeling than making the
Oh, yeah.
room laugh,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
And the thing, I mean, he told me this, I think on the episode, but it, like we watch 99, like we're in the 99th percentile in terms of how much comedy we consume as comics.
Right.
Like the average person doesn't know what's funny compared to a comedian.
Right.
Like not because they're, and that's such like a douchey thing to say.
No, but
it's like,
I've never really thought about it, but I totally understand what you are saying though.
it's like being a food critic or
Right.
something, like where you, if you go out to eat every night of the week, you have taste, right? Like you will understand what makes something good and what makes something not good, or hack or whatever, like overhyped, all that shit. And you have to trust that, you know, like that's important to have that if you don't have comedic taste,
Right.
it'll show in your act. And
Right.
like you asking yourself honestly when you're doing a joke, like, is this of good taste? And it's a very basic thing, but you learn that by watching a shitload of comedy. So it's, and being around comics, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
it's that's the thing that I think is somewhat missing out here is comics that are established that just choose not to hang.
Yeah.
Like it's like they're like, oh, I booked my own shit, so I don't need to hang out. Like I'm not part of. Like, they don't want to associate. It's like,
Right.
dude, you need us,
Right. Right.
because we keep you in
Right,
check.
right.
Like and that there's not a lot of that, and it's a crazy mentality to think like you graduate from I mean, you should want to.
Right.
Like this is what you love to do. And I think a lot of it is people on the East Coast, like they're doing this whether or not they have a career in it. Like they have to do this. If they make money, cool, but they have to do this. And here it's like, it's almost always financially driven. Like everybody's just operating based off of like making money, and it's not for.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was told. Is it's like, you know, your time is important, and like people need to be paying you better, and you need to make sure that if someone asks you to be on a show, ask how much and what this and that. And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you, at the point that I'm at right now, I don't give a fuck about that. Like I'm just trying to have as many people see me as possible and make them laugh. And that is, you know, if I get money, that's great.
Yeah.
But it'd be different if I was
think
depending
they're good
on
at
it.
comedy out here.
Oh yeah.
And then you go and see.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a difference too that I learned out there. There's funny and there's good. Okay, like there's a lot of people that are good in New York. Like level of comedy that I've just like, it's almost like Olympian level shit where you're just like, that act out is like
Right,
the
so
physicality,
impressive.
all this stuff. But then there's also like people that are fucking funny, like how you're describing with your dad or your mom or whatever. The people that are both are terrifying to see on stage.
Right.
Like you see it and you're like, I don't know what I'm watching right now.
Right.
But it's like, it's unbelievable. And like you either need to be hang out with a lot of comedians to be that funny, or you need to be on stage working to be that funny.
Right.
It's not really what happens out here.
No.
So like if you just think you're fucking the shit, I mean, and I'm part of
everybody
that.
does.
Like we're all
Right.
part of that.
Right.
But like it's a weird thing. I learned so much going out there though.
Oh, yeah.
It was wild.
When the hang between Michigan comics and Seattle comics are worlds apart.
Yeah.
It's like in Michigan, I mean, I only was in the scene there for maybe 2 or 3 months before I came back here. And, you know, so I'd met these people, you know, I'd seen them around, but 2 or 3 months, right? And I go back in December and I show up to a mic and they're all, oh my God, you know, hugs and what's up? What are you doing? Blah, blah,
That's
blah.
fucking rad.
And it's like, I come out here and I know that people are excited to see me probably, but it's more of like, and I'm like, hey, like, not that I want a big hug or but it's just a different.
I think it's like the
camaraderie of it.
Yeah, when you have are there fewer mics to go to out there?
Yes and no. More accessible because they're all in the same kind of area.
Yeah.
But they're in bars, so you really got to work for a laugh. But to me, I'm like, well, that's just making me better,
For sure.
To really have to constantly be writing.
It's a different skill set, too.
Right.
Like there's a lot of sort of like expected behavior of audiences out here. And then, when I came back, it was like, oh, fuck, there's not, somebody making drinks in the background and all that stuff. Like you get used to it and you're like, that's not a problem. Like that's not going to be an issue. And I don't know. I miss being in that place. But I also it is such a terrible place to be.
Right.
Like just like people pooping on the subway and just
dirty.
It's so filthy. Like I grew up in the Midwest and I am used to space just being in the fucking shower and you're trying to wash your ass. And
you're not a small dude,
I'm not,
right?
No, and
right.
But I think it makes you funnier. I really do.
Yeah.
And it made me think a lot differently about being a comic amongst comics, just because it'll make you funnier.
Right.
It's a lot of, I don't want to be that lonely person, where you get to the point where you're good and then you have no peers anymore. That's a shitty feeling.
I don't think that you're going to be like that though. It's one thing to recognize if you're good. And to be honest, if you're doing comedy and you want to make it a real thing and you don't think you're good, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a thing where it's like, I'm good, I don't need anybody else. I think it's good to recognize that you're good, but hey, I can always be better.
Yeah.
There's always room to get better. So I'm going to keep pushing towards that. And, hanging out with other comics, even when you don't fucking want to. It's like, oh, this fucking guy. But then he says one thing that makes you just think about what you just said in a different way.
Yeah.
And boom, then you have a new idea for a joke or a new route for it.
But there's this, there's something out here. I don't know how to put, and I'm sure it's in every scene, but it's in order for you to be funny, you have to drop that guard.
Right.
And there's just a lot of posturing.
What do you? So what do you mean by that?
Maybe it's more amongst male comics, but it's the kind of I'm funnier than this guy, and it's just not about that.
Oh no, I see that all the time.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get it from being female and male comics, and it's.
Yeah, I don't talk a lot in groups here.
Really?
Well, just because you can't get a word in.
Yeah.
So if you
Can you
whenever,
shut up for a second?
right? No, seriously, and it's everyone's just shouting over each other to be the more funny. Mm-hmm. So I'll just sit there and I'll be quiet the whole time and I'll whisper stuff to the person next to me and we'll be fucking dying, But it's because of that. Or I've had the comic that's oh, you're so lucky you're a woman. I'm like, oh, you want to elaborate there, white guy? You want to, let's, and he's like, well, it's, it's so nice because you get more spots, this and that. And I was like, I said, I get spots because I'm good. I get spots because I work hard.
Yeah.
Not just because I have titties. That's great that I have tits. I love my tits. I love tits. But, that's not why I'm getting spots.
Yeah.
Look at our set that we just did that mic last week. Who got the laughs? Mm-hmm. And I'm not, I didn't say that to him. I just went,
you should have.
Okay. All right.
Well, okay. I'm going to give you the other side of that. Mm-hmm. I think that it's easier to get entry level, get put on shows when you start as a girl versus being a guy.
Right.
Okay. But what you do with that stage time is up to you.
Right.
And you can either be that guy that's say, I'm not getting as many spots. Or you can be that guy that's well, I'm going to prove that I deserve any spot that I get.
Right.
And what you do with that stage time is what matters. It might be, look, I book this podcast. You book a podcast. It's hard to find, I can pick 20 white dudes right now
Right.
for my podcast.
Right.
And there's just so many of us.
Right.
And I don't like most of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not,
you're like, it's not, you're like, I just don't want to like invite them here and talk to them for an hour, you know?
Well, and it truthfully, it's like a lot of it is the same type of shit. What are they going to be talking about jerking off?
Right.
And like, if you have something original to say or whatever, people like watching different people on stage too. Like have you ever sat and watched a show of like 5 white dudes talking about their dick? It is really good.
Yeah. Oh, it's the best.
It's the funniest thing you will ever see.
Oh my gosh, it's awful. Ugh. Yeah, and I agree with that. And then in my head too, and I've been in the position where someone will meet me and find out I'm a comic and be like, oh, I'd love to book you, you know? And in my head, I'm like, you've never seen me perform. And then I know, you know, I'm like, all right, it's because I'm a woman. And in my head too, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you as a showrunner? Like, you're not going to check out the person you want to
see how it looks on the post.
Right. Or like, oh, it's a good looking young woman that's a comedian. So like, yeah, she's probably, yeah, whatever. And it's like, you don't even know if I'm funny. Like, you know, like why would you book someone that you've never seen?
But okay, the other side of that is who that person has to pick from too. Like, sometimes you're like, I remember Skippy booked me for my first show and I felt so happy. Like I was like, I got on this comic and I still have the $20 I got from that show. Like it was, I had done my first set and then he booked me off my first set. And I got to that show and I quickly realized like no one was funny there, right? Like it was, and it was just like, oh, I looked like I was decent to look at on stage and like, especially compared to other comics.
Right.
Like, if the show's going to suck anyway, it's at least nice to have like someone that's young and smiling or whatever. And that's a lot of entertainment. Like it's not personal. It's just like, it's fucking ridiculous.
Right. You could have just stood there and said nothing.
I basically did. I just flexed these pipes.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see there.
Oh. Hey, can I, do you have the video of the morning wake up things? Can you play the audio of it? Or is that? I
would feel awful if it reached him.
Okay.
You know? Okay. I'm fine with talking about it. I just don't.
Is that like related at all to your story for the story time stuff? Or is it, what's the story about? Or just topic wise? A
story from when I was in high school.
Okay. Should we do that or?
Yes. I've already thought about, I'm like, I want to play all of this stuff that, you know, we have on this guy. It's a cringy video that is hilarious, but he has no idea that we have it, you know?
Yeah.
So I would feel awful.
Okay. Let's talk about this and then we'll go into the story stuff.
Okay.
But, we were hanging out, I think at like in Tacoma or something, but you were like cracking up with your friend. I was like, what's going on? And you had this video, just it's your story or your.
This guy had met my friend and I've seen him in the comedy scene, not a comic. And he was like kind of flirting with her. And I told her, I was like, hey, he's a little much. Like, I don't think you're going to be into it. She's like, oh, he's hot. I'm like, I thought that too, you know? Thought that too. And she woke up the next morning with not a text message, not an Instagram DM, but a video, not sent through Snapchat, sent like texted to her so we can watch it as many times as we want.
Okay, so pause for a second. Is this common practice? Is this like
no?
Okay,
no.
From anyone? Like, this hasn't become like a thing?
So the first time I'd seen something like this actually was on Your Mom's House, the podcast with Tom and Christina, and someone had sent them a video that they found of this guy basically being like, "Hey, what's up, Jennifer? Here's the reasons why I think that we should go out." Blah, 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 blah. And like that same energy. Mm-hmm. It's the same energy.
But they're looking at it as a joke, like they're making fun of it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So your friend wakes up and has a video on her phone from this guy. And what's like?
it's
the gist of it.
It's a 1 minute video of him.
Which is a long video.
Too long. That shit would have been cut off on Snapchat. That's how long it was.
Should have been like, hey, I was thinking of you, let's...
Right. He should have. That is literally, there is a social media app for this specific purpose.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to use that. And the best part about Snapchat is that it deletes immediately after you send it.
Yeah.
So that no one sees it
Ever
again. And he is... And the best part about this video is that you watch it and you know it wasn't his first shot recording it. You know,
Really?
You know it was his fourth or fifth.
God damn,
his fourth or fifth try. I know. And
But,
he's just basically asking her, you know,
but how does it
trying
start?
to ask her out. Hey, saw you.
Do it for the camera.
Hey, it was so good to meet you last night. I thought it was very serendipitous. We were both wearing yellow. So I was thinking maybe if you like wanted to, we could go out for like a drink, a martini, maybe do some salsa dancing. I mean, it goes on and on. And if he does somehow watch this, I just want to thank him for bringing so much laughter into my life. And it's not, this is why I don't want to show it, because that could really make him feel awful. And I don't want to do that, you know? So it's just, and then, so when I told you about it, Adam, it's that I had showed a couple of my friends the video that were at the mic that we were at together. And then all of a sudden, I get a text message from my friend and she says, we got another one. And I lost my shit. And that was the next video where he asks her to grab a coffee. He does a fakie on. And again, you watch it and you're like, this wasn't the first recording.
So did she ever see him?
No, absolutely not.
It didn't
Never.
encourage it?
Nope. He ran into her at my show. And so that's why he was like, hey, saw you last night. Thought it was a good idea to send another video.
Well, it inspired some communication between you and I, too.
I know. We were sending each other videos.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How many other, like, did Reese send you one, too?
Yeah. It was like, it was a three-way thing between us of all just sending each other videos of us ripping our hat off.
Fucking cringy. But the thing is, like, it is one of those things that if you know the guy and like you're like, oh no, that's just the way he is or whatever. Like I'm sure, but without that context, it is so. There's something about men like being. I was having this conversation with Mike DeVore recently. Like everybody has something they do that like out of context is fucking weird as shit. It's like when you went to someone's house as a kid in like elementary school for sleepover, and you're like, wait, you put lotion in socks and then put them on. Like what the fuck is, and you do it with your mom every night. Like that, it's like everybody has these weird, like, and then as we get older, we realize like, you don't do that. So it's fucking weird. But like,
but we don't do that.
Yeah. Without like the community, there's no, it's just some weird shit.
Right. I mean, yeah, you learn at one point in your life where you're like, I'm going to keep that to myself. I'm going to do that on my own time.
Or just stop doing it.
Or stop doing it.
Never send a video like that again.
Right.
Like, it's super weird. Like, one of his friends at some point should have, like, found out about that and been like, hey.
Yeah.
I know what you're going for here. It's a swing and a miss.
I want to talk. Part of me wants to show the video just to be like, have any of you gotten a video like this from this man? If so, please come forward.
But this isn't this is just hey, we get what you were going for.
Oh yeah,
great idea.
Text would
execution.
Suffice.
Yeah, execution needs improvement.
Right.
Because it wasn't. I mean, in a lot of ways, that video gave you so much more than.
I'm so happy he sent them. That's the thing is it's brought me so much joy into my life, whether it's watching it again or showing someone for the first time like that.
Let's do just you into this camera. If you were going to do a video like that for someone else.
Okay. Give me the premise.
You met this guy at a bar the night before.
Okay.
And you guys had a drink, but he had to go.
Okay.
You really liked him, and you'd like to see him again.
Okay.
And you just woke up.
Right. Okay. Good morning. I just wanted to say it was really, really, really lovely meeting you last night. And unfortunately, I know that you had to leave really quickly. And I kept telling myself all night, it's not for someone else. And it's not like you got hit up on Tinder or something. And it's just because like you had to work, like you said. But I was just wondering if like maybe you wanted to see me like tonight and tomorrow or the next day. So thank you so much. Hope to hear from you soon. And then there'd be an awkward minute where I'm thought that I ended it, and then I'll end it. That's my cringy video.
I would probably say yes to that.
Right?
Though. Still,
right?
Yeah, no.
Right. A little scared because you're like, oh, she's kind of crazy. Like, she got the little, like, okay, she could be, like, she's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there is a thought process, like, don't stick your dick in crazy.
Right.
But if you only stick your dick in crazy, that's another approach you can have. Right?
Yeah, right.
You just never stick your dick in normal.
Right. There you go. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad idea.
That seems like the right segue for story time.
Yeah.
It's story time. It's story time with Adam. Yeah, it's story time. It's story time with Adam and friends.
Go ahead.
First of all, that was beautiful.
Isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Can I get that just so I can play it in my car?
I'll get you on tape. I'll send it to you in a little
Thank you.
Instagram
That
video.
is catchy as hell. Okay, so it's a little story about when I was in high school. I was very patriotic, running for secretary of my class. It was my junior year, and I decided to wear a dress to school that day. Okay? It was just so quirky, So I wear a dress to school, and I go into the gym locker room to put my gym clothes in there, and I put my backpack on, right? And I walk out of the locker room. And I hear people way down the hall kind of giggling, and I didn't think anything of it, and I'm just walking to class, walk past.
What type of dress is this? Like
a beautiful one, Adam.
Like thigh over the knee?
Knee length.
Okay.
No tights. It was yellow. It was tight, and then it kind of came out a little bit.
Okay. Anything underneath? Is that?
Underwear.
Okay.
And a bra.
Keep going.
So I'm walking, and it was a long walk. Like, it wasn't like I was there in a minute. It was like about 7 to 8 minutes.
Okay.
Walk past the principal, vice principal, classmates, teachers, walk into the classroom, say hello to my English teacher, turn around, and go to sit at my desk. And I went to fix my dress, as, women do when they're sitting, or men if they're wearing dresses. You fix it. And I went to fix it, and I felt my entire ass. Like, bare ass. And I just hear laughter behind me. And I was like, that's not happening. It's like, I didn't feel my butt. That's not happening. That's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. And I fixed my dress. I'm sitting there. I was like, they didn't say anything. They didn't see anything. It's fine. Like, not a big deal. I was wearing the sexiest piece of underwear that I owned, Adam.
Really?
It had lips all over it, and it was cheeky, and like it, it looked great. But it was the sexiest pair of underwear that I owned.
I'm excited right now. Keep going with the story.
And then all of a sudden, the teacher won't fucking look at me. Like, he won't look at me, right? And I was like, oh my God, did my ass really show? Because I convinced myself that it's just because of how I was sitting, I felt it, right?
Yeah.
And then this female teacher walks into the room, and she comes up to me. She goes, can I see you outside for a second in the hallway? And I was like, oh my God. And I walk out into the hallway. And she goes, that's a very pretty dress. It's very nice, but, and I was like, yep, I know. I already fixed it. And she goes, oh, you should have seen the principal's face. And I was like, excuse me? Like, people were that uncomfortable with letting a girl know that, hey, your ass is out. That, you're not even going to fucking.
Just let it keep going.
Right. For 8 fucking minutes. All the way down, right. And I turn to look at where the principal and the vice principal are, and they fucking won't even look at me. And I was like, no, I was like, all right, it was probably just a little cheek action, you know, like not a big deal. And I didn't like leave school. I didn't cry, you know, nothing like that because I'm a strong bitch, you know. Mm-hmm. And all my friends are like, oh my God, I'd be mortified. Like I would probably change schools. I'm like, it's fine, you know, it's whatever. So later on in the day, I go into the locker room and I'm like, I just kind of put my dress up into my backpack to kind of see like, all right, what did I feel? You know, like what did I feel? And I turn around and I mean, that whole dress was like fucking coming through the armholes. Like it was, my whole ass was out, like the entire thing.
Was it wasn't a thong, was it?
No, but it was cheeky, man.
Cheeky. So
it
there
was
a lot
just
of juice.
Cheeky.
Like nowadays, like swimsuits now are
cheeky.
Or way
thongs.
Yeah.
Right.
But like back then,
right.
I mean,
little lips all over. Who did I think I was?
It's juicy, yeah.
So that night, I was dating this guy at the time, and we were at my house, like decorating these posters for my secretary, like to, you know, because there was voting the next day or something. And I'm like decorating them, and he just looks at me and goes, hey, I don't think we really need to do this now that the whole school's seen your ass, you know? And I looked, and that's the moment that I lost it. And I was like, get out. And I'm just like, start fucking crying and screaming. He's like, what the fuck? I was like, that was the fucking tipping point, man. That was it. Oh my gosh, it was mortifying. But shit like that would happen to me all the fucking time. And I think a part of that has to do with why I'm like, I don't have as, you know, a thin skin or any, you know what I mean? Like, I fucking think everything's funny.
Yeah.
Like, you've said to me, you're like, I think you're one of the guys. You know, like, you're not.
You just have a different energy too. I mean, it's hard for me to even, if you told me that now, I would have just assumed you would have just been like, oh, that's funny, and fucking tucked your dress down. But like, high school was such a different, especially with that few people. And like,
everyone
and it's
knew
so
everybody.
great, like the Midwestern aspect of like, we don't even want to talk, like, we can't even broach this subject.
No one, that's what made me the most upset is
It's
I'm like,
insane. You just let.
Right. Oh yeah. And I mean, we're all on good terms now, you know. I got voted secretary.
You won.
Not because of my ass, I'm sure of it.
You should have used that as like a selling point. It's just like, like a set of cheeks on your, like a pin or something.
If I get your vote, you get a pin on my ass. Thank you.
That's goddamn.
Yeah. But yeah, shit like that would happen. I mean, it was funny. You know, it is funny. It's hilarious, funny. Right? Looking back on it.
I'm trying to think if there was anything like that in my high school. I don't. The closest thing I ever had, it wasn't in high school, but like this girl I was dating, we went to, what is the club in Crackers, I think, or Jokers in Indiana, like Indianapolis. There's a small club, and it's like just a little room. I was in school at Purdue and went there for like a weekend to go to a comedy show, and she wore a dress and didn't have anything on underneath it. And when we were leaving, she turned, and we had been sitting up front, and she turned, and everyone in the back saw, like, it was just a full, like, Sharon Stone, like.
They get a shot of her beef?
Everything.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
And, like, I thought it was pretty funny.
Right.
But also, like, I mean, it was like, I don't know. There's being with somebody who's not wearing underwear, it's like, it's kind of a turn on.
Oh, yeah, like, absolutely. 100%.
But at the same time, like, I was like, everybody saw.
You weren't turned on as much anymore after that. Or were you? Are you into that? Are you like,
I don't know how now
right?
I'm like, I mean, at the time I probably was like, right, now I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, well, it's kind of hot. Everybody saw her pussy.
I just don't even know how I'm supposed to feel at 32 now.
Right. Your feelings can change as you get older.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, there is that like fun sexual, because I feel like part of the allure to also like not wearing underwear when you have a dress on, it's like, oh my God, I hope there's not like a wind gust.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy. Like, what if somebody sees something? And but then you're like, oh no, everybody saw everything. Yeah.
And some people, I don't know. You remember those mini skirts? This is a weird tangent, but like the cloth, kind of like flared.
Pleated?
Yeah.
Like plaid pleated?
Not plaid, but like they were, this was like early 2000s.
More
where
like,
they were like, yeah, like that.
Yep.
they banned them from our high school.
Really?
Because girls were like, it was getting so out of control where like a wind would blow and just full butt cheeks.
Right.
And then they wouldn't have anything on underneath. Like it was, there were always those girls in high school where like they didn't care at all. Like,
Right. If they did have something on, it was their thong pulled like way the fuck up here.
Yeah, no, you
Right.
could see it up over the. Can you imagine how hard that would be to just be a teacher and I'd be like, you can't wear like a male teacher,
right?
Like it's just
Tiffany,
not your
come
problem.
on.
Not your problem, you know, like
right. God damn it,
out of control.
Right. Yeah. See, at our school, we just couldn't show our shoulders, or like our ankles. You know.
My buddy, they had that rule too with ours, and my buddy just showed up one time in a sleeveless, like puffy vest, and he was fucking jacked, and like he walks in, the teacher just get out of here. Well, I don't know what you're doing right now. Just leave.
Oh, that's so funny.
And he was celebrated when he got kicked out.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
All right, before we wrap up, just a reminder, everybody. If you can, hit that like, subscribe, and notifications bell. It helps us on YouTube. Where can people find your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram at Alexa Stanton Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You can find my YouTube series, Barefoot and Pregnant. You can either type that in or type Alexa Stanton into YouTube. TikTok's popping off a little bit.
Nice.
Alexa Stanton Comedy, same thing. You can pretty much just my name anywhere. We'll find you everything.
Fuck yeah. Mm-hmm. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Oh, and a podcast, The Budcast.
Budcast,
I have a
that's
podcast
right.
called The Budcast. Check it out.
Where available?
Spotify, Apple.
All of the above.
Yes, all the above.
Cool. Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to rate and review us. If you're on YouTube, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss our upcoming content. And as always, follow us on Instagram at FNFPod. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to my wave pool.